Could China or another large government take over the Bitcoin network with a 51% attack, basically controlling the hash rate, controlling the mining power, and then, completely manipulate everything, double spend, all the crazy things, and would then Bitcoin completely crash? So let's take a deeper look and analyze that thought process. Hey and welcome to today's video. My name is Julian. On my channel, it's all about making you crypto fit. I discuss the beautiful world of blockchain, cryptocurrencies, decentralization, most of all Bitcoin, and that is actually the topic for today. If you're new to this channel and you're interested in those topics and you like analysis from a very objective, calm point of view, focusing on the data and the facts, you want to click the subscribe button and you want to click the bell icon because you don't want to miss any of the videos here. And if you're recurring, hey, please give me a thumbs up on this video. Remember, the more thumbs up, the higher the Bitcoin price goes. So there's only one way, and that's clicking the like button on this. So thanks so much for being back. With this, let's dive in and let's analyze the problem of, a government having 51% hash rate, being able to dictate the blockchain network, the Bitcoin network in that case. You might have heard those stories that, for example, China, there's over 50% of the mining happens in China. What happens if China kind of takes over all those mining equipment and starts mining itself and then basically becomes centralized, having more than 50% of the hash rate of the mining power, of the voting power, basically? Or what if the US starts printing money like crazy and would start buying up all the electricity, buying all the miners that are out there? Let's just assume it would be possible. Could the US, could China, could any government take over the Bitcoin network? And obviously that would be that's a question that's being posted by a lot of people, and obviously a lot of doomsayers of Bitcoin and a lot of amateurs post that. And so I would love to kind of discuss this problem here a bit. Well, first of all, it's very, very difficult to take over so much hash rate, right? So that's the very first thing. So even if you had all the money in the world, it's not that easy to just buy up all the mining equipment. And obviously you need the electricity, which for a large government wouldn't be a problem. But getting access to all the mining equipment is actually not that easy. So that is a bit of a challenge, but obviously with enough money, if you did this, and if you can, and there's also now a couple things. You need to keep this quiet, right? So this cannot be leaking because otherwise people can't prepare to that. But let's assume, for the very unlikely scenario that China or US or someone would be possible to do it, what would actually happen? Well, in this unlikely scenario, what would actually be possible, on the one hand, anyone that controls more than 51% could double spend. Because what you could be doing is you could just be mining blocks in the background. You make a spend, for example, you spend 1,000 Bitcoins and then you keep mining on the back, and then these 1,000 Bitcoins were actually never spent. But because you have the largest chain and having 51% of the hash rate means you have the longest chain, or over time you should have the longest chain, you could just put those blocks in, the other blocks get taken out, and the entire network should jump over and should start mining on your chain. And you have the longest chain. You have the chain with the most hash rate. So that's basically considered as truth. So on the one hand, such a government could completely double spend. They could also, and most people would see this as the more likely scenario, they could just censor, meaning they could, just keep empty blocks, not include any blocks. And that way, basically the entire blockchain comes to a standstill and Bitcoin becomes unusable. In either scenario, trust in Bitcoin would falter completely because, in this case, Bitcoin becomes censorable. There's suddenly double spend happening. There are things that should not happen that suddenly would happen. And, a decentralized network that becomes centralized is worthless. So that's obviously a major, major concern. So let's kind of talk a bit about if this is actually realistic, and if it is not, why isn't it? Or if it is, why hasn't it happened yet? And so these are a couple of things that I want to discuss here. The most common answer you hear out there by a lot of people is actually that of money. So most people say, oh, it would be so expensive to pay for that mining power, and it would be so expensive to pay for the electricity. It would be so expensive to get all this mining equipment. But that's bogus, because at the end, all that is, it's dollars that's being printed by the government, who can just print more of those dollars, right? So kind of arguing with the government that something is too expensive, that's completely stupidity in arguments. That makes no sense. So if you ever hear this argument, this person obviously hasn't really thought it through. So this works for corporations, that works for larger groups. But this does not work for institutions where money is never an issue, right? They can just print more, as we have seen. So the money is definitely not the issue. But what is the issue? Why couldn't the US or why couldn't China just take over the hash rate and start controlling network? Or could they? Well, in theory, they could. But that is actually where most people don't really understand how Bitcoin or a blockchain as a sort actually works. Mining, and that's the key thing, mining is all about delivering new information to the blockchain. That's basically how mining, what mining does. Mining creates consensus. So the average critic out there is right in saying that China or the US could take over 51%, and so they could dictate consensus because it would become centralized. But here's the key part. Anyone running a full node actually dictates whether they accept this new info or not. And there are certain rules to this. There are rules, for example, that the longest chain is always be considered as truth, code is law. These are all very general rules. And one could assume that if there weren't a common enemy out there, anyone with a full node would stick to those rules. But in extraordinary circumstances, the full nodes out there, and there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of full nodes out there, could then suddenly go and say, you know what? All these miners generating those fake blocks, I'm not accepting those as truth. I only accept the blocks from maybe the 30% as truth. Now, in normal circumstances, this would never happen because there would never be this agreement to do so, and you would always be at loss in doing this. But in extraordinary circumstances, a user-activated fork could actually happen. And if you think this is surely not true, it is. In 2017, this actually happened. In that case, there was a user-activated soft fork. In my opinion, that was just a false branding because it was actually a user-activated hard fork. And what happened there was, if you remember, that there was this discussion of SegWit. And people signaled BIP9, that was kind of Bitcoin improvement proposal, they signaled the support for SegWit. And in that case, once it hit over 95%, the network was supposed to upgrade. And then suddenly people started coming in and saying, no, we need to do SegWit 2x, and it's all got it haywire. And at the end, it was threatened that it was not going to be upgraded. But, and now is the trick, the users upgraded and said, hey, you might have the majority of the mining power, but guess what? You can mine all day. I'm just not accept your block. If your block comes in and it doesn't support it, I'm just going to reject it. It was extraordinary circumstances. Now the thing here is, and this is very important, this is not what one person can decide. This is what an entire community as a movement has to decide. Because they believe that it is for the better good. It is for them. And so, and we can discuss this. Maybe let me know in the comments, what do you think would be events where a user-activated fork would happen? So not a fork that's pushed by the miners. Normally, most forks get pushed by the miners because that is basically where new consensus comes from. But obviously, this consensus still has to stick to its old rules. And at the end, these rules are defined by the community, and that is everyone or anyone running a full node. So let me know, what do you think would be those circumstances? Obviously, we've seen in 2017 where people were like, hey, we agreed on doing this and now you're not doing it. We are rejecting your nodes. Extraordinary circumstance. I would firmly believe that if there were a foreign entity starting to attack the Bitcoin network and at the end start to attack the value that all these people hold on there, these people would just say, screw you. I'm not accepting your blocks. You can mine on the longest chain. Yes, you have the longest chain. I'm just not accepting it. I'm going against the code is law principle here, but because you are coming here with malicious intent. And it's not about a 51% here. So it's not about China or the US being able to create more full nodes. It's not necessarily a 51% vote. It is about the vote that actually matters. So it might be that the majority of the hash rate and the majority of the nodes, fake nodes, actually sit on one network. But that is irrelevant if this is all the same entity. So China and the US, and that's actually then what comes out of this. Yes, they're mining the longest chain, and yes, they have the most full nodes, and they're all like happy in their little castle. But who cares? If all they can do is push coins around among themselves, and the rest of the network just says, middle finger, screw you, it's really fun that you kind of attack yourself over there, but we got new rules over here, and we're not accepting it. And to me, and I've seen this in 2017, and that was quite powerful to see. And I don't think that this would happen if, for example, an attack, a hack would happen, or I don't think this would happen if someone loses a lot of money. I don't think an Ethereum kind of style, 2016 kind of style, would cause the majority of people to do this. But if there were a malicious entity, I would be convinced that this would happen. And at the end, and this is now the true power, right? Remember, the true power of a blockchain is not the tech, it's not the code, it's not necessarily even the hash rate. Very few people understand this, believe me. It is the person. It is the community. That's what it comes down to. And that is by far the strongest in Bitcoin. And if you understand that, you understand how ridiculous these arguments of money, of hash rate actually are. What truly matters is what you cannot fork, what you cannot copy. It's us human beings. And that is what truly matters. And don't forget that's what brings the value to those 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be created. So I hope that explains some very fundamental things for you. If you like this kind of content, click the subscribe button, click the bell icon. You're not going to miss anything here. And if you get value out of this, then hey, give me a thumbs up. I would highly appreciate that. With this, stay safe, have good decisions. I'll see you next time. Yours truly, Julian. Bye-bye.